After you open up Excel and start a new workbook, it is best to save it immediately. To save a workbook, you can click the Save icon in the upper left-hand corner. Next, you will be prompted to specify what folder to save your spreadsheet in. After you find the location, you can change the file name to the title you wish for your workbook. After you save it, you can find it in the folder you stored it in, and then when you're ready, open it up and begin working on it again. Here in my workbook, I've created a new worksheet called Sheet Number 1, and I want to start entering text in my cells. So, here in A1, I'm going to type in Movie Titles, and I press Enter. When I press Enter, it moves me into the cell down below. So now I'm going to type in some column headings. I want to type in the name for the name of the movie, and I'm going to press the Tab key to move to the cell to the right, B number 2. I'll type in the year, Tab, I'll type in the ticket price, Tab, and I'll type in Director, and I'll press Enter. And it moves me back down to cell number A3. So typing within a cell text is just as easy as that. Click into the cell and type away. Notice the movie titles in cell A1. It sort of carries over into cell B number 1. You can change the width of a column to make it look more polished by taking your mouse and hovering it in between two columns, A and B. Notice my mouse changes, so I can click and hold and drag it to the right to change the width so that movie titles looks more professional, more polished as it's sitting in A number 1. So now let me put in some movie names. I'm going to type in Star Wars. I spelled it wrong on purpose, and I'll type in Raiders of the Lost Ark, which is very long, so it carries over into the cell to the right. I'll type in another movie. Now, every time I typed in the name of the movie and I press Enter to move me to the cell down below it, what I can do is, if I'm typing in a cell, I type in Jaws, up here next to the formula bar, you'll notice there's a check mark. If I click that check mark, it's Enter, but it keeps me in the cell that I'm on. It doesn't move me down to the next cell below it. So an option you have is you can click that check mark after you've done typing some text in. Now you can change the look of the text in a cell. So I'll click on Movie Titles, and over here under the Home tab, I have all different options for fonts. So I can click on the bold, change that cell, that text, to bold. Make it italicized by clicking the I. Make it underlined by clicking on the U. I can even click on the paint bucket over here by clicking the drop down and changing the color. Maybe I want to fill it in with the color yellow. Or I can even click on this icon in the drop down to change the color of the actual word. So I can change it to red. So I've changed the look of that particular text in that cell. Now, up at the top, next to the Save button, is this little guy, the Undo button. This can be your friend. If you want to undo some of the things that you've done, the keystrokes that you've done, press the Undo. Notice as I do that, it changes the color of the words, or the letters, from red to black. Do it again, and it's basically undoing everything that I just did. So that Undo button is very useful. Now, if I want to change the information that's in a cell, the text that's in a cell. So for example, if I click down here onto Jaws, if I'm on that cell and I just start typing, it types over whatever was in that cell. If I press Enter, it moves me down to the cell below. Let me click that Undo button again to return it back to Jaws. Well, the reason I want to understand that is, notice Star Wars is spelled wrong. Now, if I just start typing Star Wars, it'll type over it, which I could do, but if I just want to change the text that's inside of a cell, I can do it one of two ways. I can double-click, and notice my cursor is now flashing right where I double-clicked, or, if I don't want to double-click in a cell, put yourself on the cell and click into the formula bar. When I click into the formula bar, I could just press the Delete key to get rid of the E, and then press Enter, and I now have that cell simply saying Star Wars. So let me change the column width again, because Raiders of the Lost Ark is a little too long, so I'll click in between the two columns, click and hold and drag, and I've changed the width. Now I want to make some changes to the font or to the color of the column titles, the name, the year, the ticket price, and director. So I could click on that cell, and I could click over here and make it bold, and click here and make it bold, and click here and make it bold, and then click here and make it bold. Well, there's a faster way. If I click on the name and I click and drag to highlight 1, 2, 3, 4 cells, and I now click over here into the font, I can change the font. Let me click the drop down and change the font to Arial. Notice all of those changed to Arial. And if I want to change the font size, I'll make it 12, because these are column headings. I want to make them more pronounced. So I could click on the paint bucket and fill them all in yellow. And I can even underline them if I want, or I can ununderline them. And I could do the same thing back on movie titles. Let me make that one bold, and let me click on the font size there and make it 14, so it's much bigger, and change the font style to Arial. Okay. So now if I want to do that to the other cells, I can do the same thing. I can click and drag, and I could easily change the font information for all those cells that I've highlighted. Now let's get some numbers into those cells. Let me put in the years for these movies. And let's put in some ticket prices. Ticket price back in 1977, ticket price back in 1981, and the ticket price back in 1975. So notice when I type in those numbers, typing numbers in the cell, the alignment is to the right in the cell. So if I click on 1977, and under the Home tab, in the ribbon here underneath the alignment group, I can click to change the alignment to say centered, or left justified, or right justified. I'll go with center. So I can highlight the cells below and do the same thing, changing those numbers so that their alignment is different. Now, for the numbers 223, 278, 414, and 205, it's just showing me the number. I can change the number style by clicking over here under the Home tab in the ribbon underneath the number group. So for example, for 223, I can click the drop down over here and specify what kind of number I want. Do I want it to be currency? Is it a date? Is it time? Is it accounting? Notice for accounting it's going to have the dollar sign, so I'll go with that. Notice it's $2.23 and it's got the dollar sign there. So let's do that. Click and drag to highlight the other 3 cells. Click on the general and go down to accounting. So I can change the style of the number by using the number group in the Home tab in this section of the ribbon. I could also change the alignment for a number as well. Let's adjust some columns and some row sizes. So I've typed in the directors' names for these movies, and you notice that the directors' names, it spills over into the cells to the right, and it also looks like the ticket price and the director, it seems like they're very crunched together. So I would probably want to change the column width so it looks more polished. Well, there's a fast way that I can do this. If you click over here in between to the left of the column A, if you click once, it highlights the entire spreadsheet. Now if I take my mouse and I move it between any 2 columns, any column you want, when you get that arrow, the double arrow, and then double click, notice it automatically resized all the columns to fit what was in those cells perfectly. So you can click over here on the left, highlight everything, and then go in between any column, double click, and it resizes the whole spreadsheet. So the same thing could be done for the rows. If I click the whole spreadsheet and I go in between any 2 rows and I double click, it would resize every row so it fits the pieces of information that are in it. There are other ways you can change the column width and the row height. We talked about you can click in between any 2 columns and drag it, like so. Or you can click on an entire column, and in the Home tab, in the ribbon, over here in the cells, click the drop down next to Format, and you can go down to the choice that says Column Width. it brings up the current column width, 13.56. Well, I'll type in 20 and I'll hit enter, and it changed the column width to be 20. I could click on a row to highlight the whole row, click on format, and I could go to row height, and I could say I want to make the row height here 25, and it changes the entire row height. Let me click the undo button to undo that. You can do this for multiple columns or multiple rows. So if I click on C and I drag to the right, click and hold and drag, I highlighted C, D, and E. I could now click on format, and I could go to column width, and I could say I want it to be 30 and click OK, and I've changed all those columns to be a width of 30. If I want to do it even faster, I can click to highlight an entire column, then right click on that column C and go down to column width here, and I could change it and then click OK to change it that way. Same thing on the row. Click to highlight an entire row, or click and drag to highlight multiple rows. Then you can right click and you can choose row height, and you could change the row height, and you can click OK, and it changes all of those row heights. Merge and center. Movie titles appearing here in the left-hand corner in cell A1. Well, I want movie titles to be centered, so it appears right in the middle of my columns of information. So I'm going to click on A1 and drag to the right to highlight ABCD, and then I'm going to click under the Home tab in the ribbon over here in Alignment, this option that says Merge and Center. When I click on Merge and Center, notice movie titles and all those cells have been merged together, and movie titles is now centered. When I click on it, it looks like it's one giant cell now. So let's change the format, the font. Let me click the drop down on borders, and let me put in some thick bottom borders. So now I see movie titles, a thick bottom border. Looks more polished that way.